Hello students, in this video I'll be taking bio for standard 9. Children, till now we have discussed about unit 1, that is cells and tissues. Today I'll take up with unit 2, flowering plants, the flower, then number 5, pollination and fertilization. So we start up with the flower, that is chapter 4. Children, regarding flower you have already read in detail in your class 6 and class 8. So in this class I will just I will discuss about the important parts of the flower. So first one, we will know what is a flower. As you can see, the definition is given in your book. You will learn from here. It is a specialized shoot in which leaves are modified into floral structures. Or you can say flower is the reproductive part of the plant which helps in sexual reproduction, and it leads to the formation of fruits and seeds. Now if you remember that the flower stalk is called pedicel, then the base of the flower, you can see this is a swollen part which is called receptacle. This is the pedicel. And regarding the floral parts, you know there are 4 different holes of a flower. The first hole is the sepal, and collectively it is called calyx. The second hole is corolla. The collective term is the corolla and individual term is petal. Then coming to the third hole, that is the male reproductive part, which is called, the common term is androecium, and individually it is the stamen. The stamen consists of 2 parts, anther and filament. Coming to the innermost hole, which is the female reproductive part, collective term gynoecium, and individually it is pistil or carpel. Now this carpel consists of stigma, style, ovary and ovule, that is the pistil. Then stamen consists of anther and filament. Yes, so any flower which has all these 4 holes, it is called complete flower. So basing on the presence or absence of the 4 holes, flowers are of 2 types, complete and incomplete. If all the 4 holes are present, like rose flower, China rose flower, it is called complete flower having all the 4 holes. And if it is not having the 4 holes or any hole is absent, it is called incomplete. Other term for complete is perfect, and the second term for incomplete is imperfect. Now examples I have written here, children: incomplete flower, apple, papaya, sweet corn, etc. Now coming to essential and non-essential parts of a flower. As I told you that flower is responsible for reproduction of the plant. So if the flower has reproductive parts, that is the androecium and gynoecium, these are the essential parts of the flower, and the non-essential parts are which help in the process of reproduction, that is calyx and corolla. Then we come to the next, children. This diagram is important. You have to practice the diagram along with the labeling. Come to the next page. Here we have, you can see here, there are some terms called perianth and petaloid. Perianth is, please underline this definition, petals and sepals are undifferentiated. Means we cannot, like sepals are green in color, petals are brightly colored, so you can identify them. But in case of some flowers, these petals and sepals you cannot distinguish. They are, that is called perianth condition. And if the perianth is non-green, means if it is green in color, then that is sepaloid, because color of the sepal is green. So if the perianth is green, it is sepaloid. If the perianth is non-green, it is called petaloid condition. Next we come to bracts. What is that bract? See the definition: when the flower arises in the axil of a leaf-like structure, then it is called bract. You see this diagram? This flower, or here you can see more clearly it is shown, this is a leaf-like structure, and from the leaf axil you can see flowers are arising. This condition, this is called as a bract. This is a flower, but this portion, it is looking like a leaf, but it is a bract. This is not a flower. It is looking like a flower, but it's not a flower. In fact, flower is this one, and this axil, this is a leaf actually. From axil of this leaf, flowers are arising. That is called a, what is that called? Bract. An example is given, bougainvillea. So next we come to, so if you have to define what is a bract, you can see here, bract is a modified or specialized leaf. What it does? It is associated with reproductive structures such as flower. So it is a modified or a specialized leaf. As I told you, this is the leaf, this colored part is the leaf, and it's a bract. Now we come to nectaries. Nectaries, you know, these are the gland-like structures which secrete the nectar in a flower that will attract the insects for pollination. Then we come to sexuality in flowers. That is, if any flower has both male and female parts, that is called bisexual or hermaphrodite flower. If it has either stamen or pistil, it is called unisexual flower. If it has the stamen only or the male part only, that is a staminate flower. If a unisexual flower has only the pistil or the female part, that is called pistillate flower. And what is a neuter flower? A flower in which both male and female parts are absent. Example, you can see ray florets of sunflower. Sunflower has got two types of florets. One is ray florets, one is disc floret. Disc floret is found in the center, ray floret is surrounding them. So that is a neuter flower. All these definitions, children, you have to learn. Coming to general description of floral parts, calyx. As you know, this is the outermost hole of the flower. This is greenish in color, and this calyx, its function is it protects the flower in the bud condition. You might have seen when a flower is in the bud condition, it is totally covered by sepal. And second function is, since it is green in color, it also undergoes photosynthesis. You can see two more terms in black, polysepalous and gamosepalous. Gamosepalous is the condition in which you can see here sepals are all united, that is gamosepalous. Polysepalous, sepals are free. Examples I have written down here, you see rose, and this is your periwinkle. Okay, periwinkle, or you can see here the yes, one more term is here, epicalyx. What is this epicalyx? Sometimes if you have seen a China rose flower, you will see along with calyx, just below this here, you will see very fine structures, green in color. Those are additional structures along with sepals, that is called epicalyx, or individual is episepals. This is again for the extra protection of the flower. Now we come to the next part, that is the petal, corolla. Like in case of sepals, petals are also gamopetalous or polypetalous. Polypetalous means petals are free. Example is rose. Gamopetalous is petals are united. Examples datura, brinjal, tomato, etc. Children, all these definitions are very, very important. Coming to the function of petals, petals attract the insects for pollination. Then also they undergo protection of stamens and pistils. These points you please learn. Androecium, this is the third hole of the flower, male reproductive part, that is the stamen. Its parts are filament and anther. See here the individual structure of, if you see the androecium structure, the structure is like this. This is the tube-like filament, and here you can see there is a bilobed anther. And each lobe of anther, it consists of 2 pollen sacs. Each lobe of anther has 2 pollen sacs. You can see in your books also, see here, there are 2 pollen sacs in each lobe of anther. So altogether there are 4 pollen sacs. Inside this pollen sacs you can find the pollen grains, and these pollen grains contain the male gametes. Now function of androecium is it will provide the male gamete for fertilization. Now this basing on the type of stamen or the arrangement of stamen, androecium are of different types. You can see here monadelphous, didelphous, polydelphous. Monadelphous means all the stamens are united in a single group. Diadelphous, filaments are united in two groups. This one you see one single filament and these all are grouped together. This is diadelphous. Polydelphous, the filaments are united in several groups. This is called polydelphous. Examples are given here, children. China rose is monodelphous, diadelphous is pea, polydelphous is bombax. What is this bomb? That cotton seed, no? Cotton plant, that is called bombax. Now, this definitions, then we come to, you please learn the definitions: monodelphous, diadelphous, polydelphous. Last part, that is the gynoecium, which is the fourth hole of the flower. Its parts are stigma, style and ovary. What is the structure? You see here, this part is the stigma. This one, it forms a tube-like structure called style. At the base you have ovary. Now this ovary contains the ovules. So this is stigma, this is style and this is ovary. Now inside this ovary we have this ovules. This is the structure of one carpel, or this is a pistil. Now you can see here, stigma function, terminal knob like part. The function is it will secrete a sticky secretion so that it can receive the pollen grains. Style, the tubular tube like structures which carries this pollen grain or the male gamete to the ovary. Third one, ovary, it is the basal swollen portion. Function is it contains the ovules which has the female gamete, and that fertilization takes place in the ovule. And this placenta, please learn this definition. This is the swollen region in the ovary by which this ovules attach to the wall of the ovary. That is called placenta. Now here you can see in the box, sexuality in plant. What is that? Monoecious or dioecious, very very important. The plants which have male and female flower on the same plant, that is monoecious. Dioecious, male and female flower, they are born or they grow on different plants, that is dioecious. Please learn the definitions which are given in your book. Progress check, do it yourself. Then we come to inflorescence and placentation. These two terms, only definitions are included in your syllabus. So inflorescence is arrangement of flowers on the axis of the plant. You can see here this flower, how they are arranged in this type. This one you see alternately, and in this case all the flowers in the same level. Here you can see this. So these are the different ways in which flowers are arranged on the axis of a plant, and this type of arrangement is called inflorescence. Next, what is placenta? It is the tissue which attaches ovule to the wall of the ovary. So if you see here in this diagram, see this is the ovary and how it is attached. This is called placentation. Now then placentation is the method or the manner in which ovules are attached to walls of the ovary. So these all definitions, please learn them by heart. The exercise part you see here, children, in the exercise part this question is very very easy. The parts only you have to label, and now this part also, this is also very easy. Whatever I have explained, based on that only questions are given. I hope you will be able to answer the questions. Now what are the following? Why are the following described as stated? Androecium is diadelphous because the filaments are united in two bundles. Ray florets are neuter because it is pistillate, but because it contains the pistil but it is not fertile, it is sterile. Salvia sepals are petaloids. Why it is called petaloid? Because they have colored sepals. Sepals are normally green in color, but in case of salvia the sepals are colored, so they are called petaloid sepals. And this petaloid sepals, they help in attraction of insects. Now exercise part, children, please try to solve it all by yourself. Now where are these following structures located? This all location and function, very very important. From this chapter location and function comes. Now let's move on to the next chapter, that is pollination and fertilization. Why I have taken this chapter along with flower? Because these two are correlated chapters. So after the structure of flower, we know that the flower, when these gametes are mature, the pollen grains are mature, they need to be pollinated. What is pollination? Transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma. Now this transfer of pollen grains, it may be, this pollination may be of different types, that is self and cross pollination. What is self pollination? If the pollen grains from one flower fall on the stigma of the same flower, that is self pollination, and the term used for that is autogamy. There is one more type of self pollination called geitonogamy, in which pollen grain from one flower falls on the stigma of another flower but of the same plant. That is geitonogamy, and it is also a type of self pollination. Now cross pollination, when anther or when the pollen grain from one plant or one male flower moves to the stigma of another flower of another plant but of the same species, that is called cross pollination, and the term used for that is allogamy. These terms are very important, children. Definitions are given here in your books. Please learn them by heart. Now we come to self pollination. Means what is the requirement that the flower can undergo only self pollination? That condition is, for self pollination to occur, the plant has to be clistogamous, means it will not open at all, means the flower will remain closed even after maturity. So there is no chance of cross pollination, so flower has to undergo self pollination only. Then when can self pollination occur? Some other conditions are given also. First one, bisexuality, means if self pollination can occur in bisexual flowers, means if they have both male and female organs, or suppose the flower is only unisexual, can it undergo self pollination? No chance of that. So for self pollination to occur, it has to be bisexual. Second condition, homogamy, means both the gametes, male as well as female, they have to mature at the same time. Homo means same. So that is, these are the two conditions, bisexuality, homogamy. It is required for self pollination. Advantages are given here in your book, children. Please go through the points. It is a surer method. Parental characters are preserved. No wastage of pollen grains. So please learn them, these points. Disadvantages, weakening of the species, because again and again from the same plant the gametes are taken. So there is weakening of the species. Then weaker or defective characters cannot be eliminated and does not yield new varieties. These are the disadvantages. Now we come to cross pollination, means I have already discussed what is cross pollination. Now advantages are, offsprings are healthier, seeds are produced, which are healthier because we are selecting them, and new varieties can be produced because cross pollination involves two different plants of the same species, so we can crossbreed. Then disadvantages of cross pollination, not always certain, because maybe suppose the pollen grain has matured, but that time if it is a wind pollinating flower and no wind blows, then the pollen is all wasted. So it is not always certain. The pollen has to be produced in large numbers. For that the plant has to waste a large amount of pollen. Third one, it is uneconomical because the flower, in order to show itself, to attract the insects, it has to be large, colored. So in this, it wastes a lot of energy. Now, next topic is nature favors cross pollination. What does that mean? Means nature by itself develops some features in flowers so that they can only undergo cross pollination. What are they? Number one, unisexuality, means if a flower is unisexual, there is no chance of cross pollination. Number two, dichogamy, means the flower, the male and the female gametes, they mature at different times. So again there is no chance of self pollination. For dichogamy, protandry, means if the androecium matures earlier. Protogyny, if the stigma matures earlier or the female part matures earlier. Then third condition is self-sterility, means the condition in which the stigma receives the pollen grains of the same flower but it is unable to, this pollen grains, they cannot develop further so that it cannot fertilize its own female gamete. Like the example is ray florets of sunflower. We have read it, ray florets, they are the neuter flowers, that even if they possess the stigma, but it is sterile. Hercogamy, if in between the male and the female parts there is a mechanical barrier. So from that male flower, pollens cannot fall on the stigma of the same flower because of this mechanical barrier. Then heterostyly, here what happens? Stigma and the style, the stigma and the stamen, this male stamen and the female part, they grow at different heights, so that the male part pollen grain, they cannot fall on the stigma of the same flower. So due to the different heights of the male and female flowers, it cannot undergo self-pollination. See this diagram, children. See the stigma, the female part is here, but the anthers are here. So how can these anthers, which are situated at a lower level, fall on the stigma? So in that case, heterostyly, different positions of the male and the female part, that also leads to cross pollination. So tables 5.1, very very important. Please learn this, self and cross pollination differences. Now we come to the next topic, that is agents of pollination. So as we know that for cross pollination, the pollen grains have to be taken from one part to another, so they require some agents. First one, insect. If insect is the agent, the flower is called entomophily. Entomophilus, and the process is entomophily. These are the points you can see I have underlined here. Flowers large, brightly colored, they have scent, nectar, etc. etc. Please go through those points. Wind pollinated flowers are called anemophilous. Process is anemophily. Here also I have underlined what is the type of flower, what nectar or not, long and hang out, etc. Please read them. These characters as such from the book, you can learn them. Water pollinated, that is pollination by water. The flower is hydrophilous. Condition is called hydrophily. Here again some points are there. Pollen grains are large numbers. The pollen grains, they have a specific type of gravity so that they can float on the surface, below the surface of water. In some cases they float on the surface of water. One example is given here. See Vallisneria, how the male flowers are floating and these are the female flowers. They will receive the male pollens. Now ornithophily, that is pollination by birds. Then we come to elephophily, pollination by elephant. Here again differences between wind pollinated and this is insect pollinated flowers are given. That also please learn the differences. Then we come to this. So till now we have discussed about natural methods of pollination, that how plant by itself undergoes pollination. Now we come to artificial pollination, that is pollination carried out by the help of human beings. So what they do, they remove the anthers in the young flowers, that you have already read in class 8, that is called emasculation. And after removing the male flower, the female flower, they undergo covering with the plastic bag, which is called bagging, so that the pollen of their choice, they will dust over these female flower. So this is artificial method of pollination, and the plant which can be grown by this, that is a hybrid. Now some examples are given in your book. One is insect pollinated sweet pea. So sweet pea, this flower, it is pollinated by insects. You can see here standard petal, wing petal, keel petal. Standard petal will attract the insects. This wing petal and keel petal, they will protect this androecium and gynoecium, the male and the female part, so that when the insect will sit on them, then what will happen, this wing petal and keel petal, they will be bent, they will be just separate, and this body of this, while sucking the nectar, body of the basal part of the insect will attach to this pollen grain. The pollen grains will stick on them, or maybe suppose one flower has come and it has visited one flower. So, and by that time it is already having the pollen grain on its body, then while sucking the nectar it will dust the pollen grain, and that will lead to fertilization. This is the structure of a pollen grain. This is the carpel. The stigma will receive these pollen grain. This is pollination by insect. That is why the flower is colored. Now you come to wind pollinated maize. You can see the diagram. This is the male flower and this is the female flower. So from this male flower, when the wind blows, then the pollen grains either may fall on this flower or they may be taken to some other flower, some other plant. So in this way, in this plant, the pollination is carried out by wind. So these are the two examples of cross pollination. Now what happens after pollination, children? After pollination, the next step is fertilization. That means now the pollen grain has fallen on the stigma of the female flower. So next what happens? Fertilization is the fusion of the nuclei of the male and female gamete. Okay, so what happens in flowering plants? Pollen grains contain the male gametes and ovule contains the female gamete. Now this all parts, the pollen grain, ovule, etc. I will explain you by the help of this diagram which is given in your book. See here. Now these pollen grains, as I said, after they mature, they fall on the stigma. The stigma will secrete some juicy substance, chemical substance, sugary substance, which will lead to the formation of the pollen tube of this pollen grain. Now this pollen tube, the structure of the mature pollen grain is this one, having an outer covering called exine, inner covering called intine. This part, this is a weak part of the exine which is called germ pore, and inside the intine, in the cytoplasm, there are two nuclei. One is generative nucleus, one is tube nucleus. This is the diagram of a mature pollen grain. When in this condition the pollen grain will fall on the stigma, then by receiving this sugary syrup, this pollen grain, it will form a pollen tube. This pollen tube, it will pass through the style of the carpel of the pistil, and this pollen tube will go on increasing in length, and finally while it is the pollen, see this diagram, the pollen tube is formed. Now generative nucleus and tube nucleus, it has moved to this part. Function of this tube nucleus is it will help in the forming the path for the pollen tube, so that this generative nucleus, it may move forward. While moving, the generative nucleus divides into two sperm nuclei, and tube nucleus goes on making the way for this sperm nuclei. Finally, this tube, this is the ovule. In the ovary, this pollen tube, when it reaches the ovary, it enters this ovule. This part is the ovule, and this individual part, this is the ovule part, which is elaborated here. It is shown in that elaborated form. First you see in this portion, this is the wall of the ovary. These are the integuments, or these are the layers which provide protection to the ovule. Now enlarged view of the ovule, you will see here. See children, this is the embryo sac. Now how does the pollen tube enters the ovule? There is an opening here that is called micropyle. That opening is the micropyle, and this micropyle carries out two major functions. One is it helps in absorption of water. Second one, it helps in gaseous exchange. And one more function is it helps in the entry of this pollen tube. Now this pollen tube, it contains, now here I told you these are the two sperm nuclei. When this pollen tube enters the micropyle, now this tube nucleus, it will degenerate. No further use of this. So on entering inside from these two sperm nuclei, before that let me tell you what does the embryo sac contains. Embryo sac contains 7 cells. 1, 2, 3 here at the micropylar end. These are called, the center one is called egg cell. These two side ones are called synergids. Likewise, in the side opposite to the micropylar end, these three are called antipodal cells. And in the center, you will see there is a single cell, large cell in the center, which is called central cell, but it contains two polar nuclei. So this is the structure of the embryo sac. Now on entering the embryo sac, one of the sperm nuclei will fuse with the egg cell and form the zygote. This zygote will later divide into many cells and it will form the embryo. Second sperm nucleus, it will come and fuse with this central cell. Now central cell already has two nuclei. This is the third nucleus. Now, so here you can see this will lead to the formation of endosperm having 3 nuclei, that is called triple fusion. That is called triple fusion. You see here the term triple fusion. So what is that triple fusion? It is a condition in which the second sperm nucleus fuses with the central cell and forms an endosperm having 3 nuclei, and this results due to the double circulation. Now again here one more term comes. What is double circulation? Double fertilization. What is double fertilization? First fusion of the male gamete and the female gamete took place here. That is, one sperm nucleus fuses with the egg cell to form the zygote. This is one fertilization. Second fertilization takes place here. Fusion of second nucleus with the central cell. So since 2 fertilizations take place, it is called double fertilization. Due to this second fertilization, there is formation of this endosperm having 3 nuclei, and it is called triple fusion. Now after this, the zygote will lead to the formation of embryo. And what happens to the floral parts? So after this fertilization takes place, ovary forms the fruit, ovary wall forms the pericarp, that is the fruit wall. The ovule forms the seed, placenta will form stalk of the seed, outer integument will form testa, inner integument will form tegment. This testa and tegment, these are the covering of the seed, which together form the seed coat. That we will read in the next chapter when we will read about structure of seed. Then secondary nucleus, this one which I said, fertilization here, that leads to the formation of endosperm, egg cell and synergid. This one, egg cell, synergids. After fertilization, they form the embryo and antipodal cells. These ones, they also will undergo disorganization. Okay, they help in providing nutrition initially, but later on after fertilization they are disorganized. So with this, I hope children you have understood the chapter, and when you read the chapter, children, please correlate every topic with the diagrams, as I have explained with the help of the diagram from your book only. So please read everything correlating with the diagrams. That will be easy to understand. And the exercise part, children, it is very easy. Whatever is there in your textbook related to that only exercise is given. I hope you will be able to solve it all by yourself. This especially structure based questions are very important. Please go through them. And here the questions which are given, I hope whatever I have explained you will be able to write it all by yourself. Okay children, with that I end up this video. Thanks for watching.